power that they need, they can produce more with the same amount of power if the machines are more efficient.
Yeah.
So you can still have the GDP growth, you can still have, the growth of the economy and all that, but you just need it to be a bit more efficient to continue growth, which is questionable on its own. If we should continue to want growth forever, if that's even possible. But for economic stability, the best thing they could do is make it more efficient and using more green power. Yes, Indonesia has a lot of coal. It's not tomorrow that we're going to decarbonize and become coal less.
I do agree.
But it needs to start to happen, and it needs other types of power. Nuclear is a possibility to displace coal, but they have their own issues, right? So there's no silver bullet. There's no one exact answer that you can, how do we keep growing and use less power overall, right? It's hard, but energy efficient machines will help. Less losses along the lines will help. In terms of how meaningful youth action for regulation, that's a really hard one. I recommend two ways. On the youth side, I recommend young people get together the way I created Youth for Energy Southeast Asia. So if there's like-minded people, like if you have a friend who's also passionate about, reducing coal in your island, for example, you get together, there's more people who want to talk about it, then there's more power to your voices. Right? On the other end, I'd recommend that governments think about having youth advisory groups. For example, the UN Secretary General, Antonio Guterres, he has a climate youth advisory group. It has 6 people from across the world. They meet once every 3 months, and they bring to him the biggest youth issues in climate that other youths have told them. So it's a way to get all the information together and then be able to deliver it compactly to people who are in power. So that's one way. So it's a two-way street, right? Young people need to kind of band together and identify what are the most basic issues. For example, you might say, actually, it's not about coal, it's about transitioning to EVs. This is the biggest issue. And then you do a bit more research around that, you get other people who agree with that. And then I recommend governments to also ask what young people think, and that's the moment where people meet at the same table, and then you're able to discuss these issues a bit more intellectually. So it's not just about, I want clean energy, but it's really about okay, I think in this island, if we use 10% solar, we can do this. Or I think if you decarbonize coal here, you can create 10 more jobs there, it'll help X, Y, Z. So it's a little bit more, paint the picture for the government, so it's easier for them to make decisions. That makes sense.
Yeah, I guess that will what the youth have to do, right? So, but the situation right now, and I know based on the research, and I know when I watch something in TikTok, people or some, told me that because I've ever done something when I was in Indonesia, and they who has met some factories, and they tried to do blackmail and blah 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 for so that I want to be rich, they say that, and I have to do blackmail and to create something and deny with the climate change either and blah blah blah. So I think that we just youth, and sometimes we are the victim of that. So because of that, I ask how to as the youth. So we need power for tackling the environmental issues. But I don't know the cases in Thailand.
It's quite similar. It's very hard. Even from my organization, right? Even though we're 20 people, we have some people who work for us in Center for Energy. We have people who work in the right spaces.
Okay.
It's still very hard to push. You didn't learn or believe the same things they do, right? You're on the outside. So it's how do we find ways to work together? The first baby steps. Can we invite them on a panel? Can they start being aware of what we're doing? And then to see if we can co-create some designs. For example, Zagi, who is head of Society for Renewable Energy in Indonesia, he does a really good job of working with the government to get funding from Pertamina to get their CSR budget and to install more solar panels on rooftops. Right? government relations to be able to pitch that product. You can't just go up and say like, I want government money, I want to do this.
Yeah.
You can say it, but they're gonna, who are you?
Yes,
right?
who are you? And
So it's like, how do we start those conversations? The easiest place, like these conferences, is going up to tell them that like, okay, you know, I really like what you said ABC, and I think, you know, if you ever had a budget for you know, solar on your island, I would want to do it. You know, so it's like that first initial step of letting them recognize what you want, and then maybe one day they will come back to it. Because in the sense, like, all the power is with the decision makers, it's not with the young people.
yeah,
And they're not like, oh, I really want to share my power, right? So it's like, how do we get into the sense that they feel like they're winning too, but young people are winning too? So there's no right answer. I'm still working on it. I don't have an answer for it, but you know, that's something I'm working on. Like, I'm trying to engage with my ministries a little bit more. I try to talk to them more. You know, go to these conferences. I try to, like, you know, raise awareness about what Thailand's doing. For example.
Yeah. I mean, the huge question to me is that they really know about the climate change issues. Really? Are you sure about that one? And how can you realize that climate change is a very important one? Your government, but you didn't realize that one.
Yeah. You know, if we're only angry at the government, even if it's rightly so, right? The government doesn't care. Why does the government ask us what we want? In the end, like, they're still in power. So either you work with them, try to work with them, even if it's difficult and it takes a long time.
Yeah, I tried to. It's difficult because we didn't have the same opinion. So about climate change. Yeah, it's
hard.
It's really hard.
We need
time to do that.
Yes.
We need time to know what is that about their personality first and blah blah blah. Yeah. After that, we can. We need what is that? We need people to do that. You know, not only one or two people, but we have the power. สวัสดีค่ะเพื่อนๆบอมบี้แบนแนมทำตัว
สวัสดีค่ะชื่อจิตใสสัตบุตรนะคะเป็น Youth Activist แล้วก็เป็นสปีกเกอร์ที่งาน Youth Sustainability Forum ที่โจโฮบารูที่ผ่านมานะคะแล้วก็ได้มีโอกาสนั่งข้างๆเพื่อนคนใหม่อยู่บนรถเมล์แนะนำตัวค่ะ
ผมชื่อสแนปซาครับ